Okay, share screen. So, muli ang last time natin din sa pan. So, hydraulic accumulators and let's hear out ano ang hydraulic accumulators. So,
hydraulic accumulators. An accumulator is fitted A. To store hydraulic fluid under pressure. B. To dampen pressure fluctuations. C. To allow for thermal expansion. D. To provide an emergency supply of fluid to the system in the event of pump failure. E. To prolong the period between cut out and cut in time of the ACOV and so reduce the wear on the pump. F. Provides the initial fluid when a selection is made and the pump is cut out.
Okay, as discussed, no, pag-ari man sa quiz is ano ang ubragid sang hydraulic accumulators. So, the mentioned is to store hydraulic fluid and then ang hydraulic accumulators kali among sila ang ga-function kung wala pa hydraulic wala na stored hydraulic power ang aton ni system. So, like say for example, patay ang eroplano. Wala pump ng gagana, wala makina nga gadlaga na gaandap to para i-energize ang system. So, this is where the hydraulic accumulators masulod. So, they also have they term them as hydraulic charge accumulator. Bali, may sila nga may gina-maintain sila nga pressure nga in case i-operate pa ang system nga wala power ang eroplano o kung ang mga makina, then you are pwede kaya ka kagamit sa system. Klaro lang akong tingog. Medyo klaro lang akong tingog. Sa mga nag-attend, no, drop your name na lang sa chat box and we have 9 participants. And thank you kay may mga nagsulubad pa. So, screenshot ko lang kay kinahanglan ko report. And then, some of you nag-answer sa nutrient basta something about nutrient sa valve. So NRVs actually are non-return valves. Muna siya ang iyagid nga definition sang non-return valves. So as the name implies, non-return valves is a one-way valve. So in actuation and jack operation, this is a single action one-way valve. So it is suspended on the other end. Kag isa lang ni ang iya nga out, one in, one out. So no other feature is present.
A non-return valve or NVR fitted upstream of an accumulator prevents fluid from being discharged back to the reservoir. Two different types of accumulator are illustrated in figure 114, but many other types are used. The gas side of the accumulator is charged to a predetermined pressure with air or nitrogen. As hydraulic pressure builds up in the system, the gas is compressed until fluid and gas pressures equalize at normal system pressure. At this point, the pump commences to idle, and system pressure is maintained by the accumulator. If a service is selected, a supply of fluid under pressure is available until pressure drops sufficiently to bring the pump online.
So ang i-discuss no is a sample of his accumulator side, but it is a more broader there are more broader and more simple system that explains a more detailed about the accumulator. So let's continue.
The initial gas charge of the accumulator is greater than the pressure required to operate any service, and the fluid volume is usually sufficiently large to operate any service once, except that brake accumulators permit a guaranteed number of brake applications, or the ability to stop the aircraft during a rejected takeoff. The gas side of an accumulator is normally inflated through a charging valve, which may be attached directly to the accumulator, or installed on a remote ground servicing panel and connected to the accumulator by means of a pipeline. The charging valve usually takes the form of a non-return valve, which may be depressed by means of a plunger in order to relieve excessive pressure to pre-charge or check the gas pressure. The system pressure should be released, offloaded. This will allow the gas pressure to move the floating piston to the bottom of the accumulator. Incorrect pre-charge pressure of the main accumulator can cause the ACOV to cut in and out too frequently. This may cause rapid fluctuations of system pressure, which can be felt and heard as in the system.
So, ang Iyagi X is trying to explain how does an accumulator operate. As I've mentioned and explained in a brief sentence earlier, accumulators are fitted in the brake system to assist the aircraft in case in case the power don't have the in case the aircraft does not have the power or any engine running sa aeroplano. So to drive the hydraulic system. So kung wala gid power ang aircraft, there are still the hydraulic system, well the brake system, which is a hydraulic system, can also operate with the aid and the function of a hydraulic accumulator. Amo na sila ang ila trabaho. And then he also mentioned a charging valve that is attached to the accumulator. So same lang sila principle as he explained, as what I explained earlier. So the next topic would be hydraulic jack or actuators. So muna na nagwaan siya sa quiz. The other term for hydraulic jacks is actuators. So siya.
Hydraulic jacks, actuators. Purpose, to convert fluid flow into linear or rotary motion. Construction may vary in size and construction depending on the operating loads, but all consist of an outer cylinder in which slides a piston and seal assembly. Attached to the piston is a piston rod, or ram, which passes through a gland seal fitted into the end of the cylinder. Types of jacks. 3 types of jack are used for different purposes in an aircraft system. Details of a particular jack should be obtained from the relevant maintenance manual. Single acting is normally used as a locking device, the lock being engaged by spring pressure and released by hydraulic pressure. A typical application is a landing gear up lock. Double acting unbalanced is used in most aircraft systems because of the presence of the piston rod. The area of the top of the piston is greater than the area under it. Consequently, more force can be applied during extension of the piston rod. Therefore, the operation which offers the greater resistance is carried out in the direction in which the piston rod extends. For example, in raising the landing gear.
Okay, so what is a actuator or hydraulic jack? So it converts fluid power to linear or rotary motion. So depending on its function sa iyang hydraulic jack. So wala niya gin-discuss diri sa manual naton ang balance actuator. Actually, the difference between a single acting and a double acting is the outlet port. Mura na sila diferensya ang ginagawa sang pressure. Ang single actuator naton only utilizes one outlet port. The balance actuators and the double acting actuators usually have a 2 or more outlet port. So amo na iya kinalain. And take note nyo lang ni siya kay sometimes though nagwa siya sa mga quiz nila Miss Arcel ang difference nila nga duwa. So siya. So ano ang some of the problems sa hydraulic system naton?
Hydraulic lock. When fluid is trapped between the piston of the jack and a non-return valve, a hydraulic lock is said to be formed because the fluid is incompressible and is unable to flow through the system. The piston cannot move even if a load is applied to it and is therefore locked in its position.
So, paano ini gahatabo ang hydraulic lock? So, medyo tricky siya i-explain, but ang as per experience, amo siya ang rason nga kung mag-ilista or mag-service ta sang hydraulic fluid is we need to bleed out the system. So, like say for example, kung magpa-service ta sa lakyan or ipakayo ta ang brakes ng salakyan, they need to bleed out the system. So, why? Nga kinahanglan nato na i-bleed out ang system. Since gi-explain niya is fluid is incompressible. So, hindi na siya makompress. So, once nga may lock up sa system or may hindi kagiho nga wala matulod sa isa ka hydraulic fluid, it will turn out kag it will result sa ma-lock up ang system. Let's say for example, may air lock. Ang air lock also happens in a piston engine. So, rotary engines. Muna sila ang mas prone sa air lock kag hydraulic lock. Tay ang di ba iya setup is a rounded, tapos though ang iya crankshaft is only connected to one crankshaft, ang 8 ka silindro, and from the time it operates okay lang siya kay circulate. So what if hindi na mag-circulate ang mga piston, wala ka-operate ang makina, nag-part. And then what will happen sa engine oil? Ang engine oil niya will go down to the bottom. So diin na ang bottom sina. Ang bottom sang isa ka rotary engine is a piston. Kaya di ba walo siya kabilog, or basta walo na siya kabilog nga piston nga may ara gid ya daw 3 or 1 nga naka-sentro gid sa dalom. So the tendency of fluid, if not operated, will be pulled down sa gravity. That is why nga ang mga rotary engines sa una, before they start, they have to crank the propeller. Ilagay na patiyog. If nakakita na kamo mag-crank sa propeller, bali ginauyatan na siya ang blade in a open palm process, and then patiyugon na nila. Mano-manohon patiyog ang propeller. So ano ang ginahimo sina? It is a way to avoid the lock-up. Ang lock-up sang piston. So amo na siya ang sample sang hydraulic lock or fluid lock or air lock. So clear lang, and I hope you understand what is a hydraulic lock. So hydraulic motors.
Hydraulic motors. These are a form of rotary actuator and are sometimes connected through gearing to operate a screw jack or to drive generators or pumps. In some aircraft they are used for driving a hydraulic pump unit, thus enabling power to be transferred from one hydraulic system to another without transferring fluid. The construction of a hydraulic motor is generally similar to the construction of a variable volume multi-piston pump. The speed of a hydraulic motor is dependent on the flow rate of oil into it.
Miss Claire, kung lang, you may check the after Zoom sessions na lang. If hinay net, I do understand the disappointment kung sa internet connection din nato na ang pagawasihan. But although may ara sa inyo nga makabati lang gid sa akong clearly I will have to continue with my Zoom session. Kay sayang man ang inyong oras. So if some of you, if hindi kabate, you may drop your name and on the chat box, and then sorry, so the record together. So and then you may leave na lang. May check the after sessions kung hindi masyado mabatian. Pero kung if you are to catch up lang man. I know there are some delays and problem with the audio coming from me or receive on your receiving end as well. So hydraulic motors and iya gid emphasize ang rotary actuators. So most of the time our hydraulic motors is screw jack type. That means a moving of a two screws to pump the fluid. Bali amo ni siya ang kalabanan man nga principle sang aton nga mga oil pump sa salakyan or any other engines. So it's either centrifugal version or the rotary or the screw jack. Mula na siya. And ang iya lang sinitrabaho is to pressurize the fluid. And then iya i-direct ang fluid through pipes into the selector or any other systems which is among gagamit sa aton nga hydraulic fluids. Pressure control.
Pressure control. Maximum system pressure is often controlled by adjustment of the main engine-driven pump, but a number of other components are used to maintain or limit fluid pressures in various parts of a hydraulic system. Typical system pressure: small aircraft 1,500 psi, large aircraft 3,000 psi. Relief valves: 4. I. Expansion, thermal relief. 2. Ultimate system protection, full flow relief. 3. Mechanical overload protection, flap relief.
So how does this pressure control work? So pressure control are fitted in the system to protect it. So paano ni siya gawin? Kabalo ko, familiar ka mo sa pressure cooker. Ang pressure cooker is a sample of a pressure control. Muna siya, bali, di ba, ang operations ng pressure cooker, siya, may fluid or water, tapos i-heat up, and then once the matter is heated up or a fluid is heated up, it will build up pressure, right? So once pag napuno siya, ag na-reach niya ang certain pressure, that is his maximum pressure, kung wala pressure control or relief valve, what will happen? Boom. It will explode. Mangita ginagawa ng pressure. It will break whatever part of the system nga kaya niya iluksan just to go out of the system. That is why may pressure control. Ang pressure control are identified as valves, relief valves, sequence valves. So ang ila function is the thermal relief kung init na gid. Kung init na gid ang system, it always depends on what type of relief valve. May thermal activated, may pressure activated as well. Kag may it is electrically operated na siya or sequence type nga kung in case may trigger siya other valve and it will open as well. So muna siya ang some types of the relief valves. So ang second function niya is ultimate system protection. So as I've mentioned, if a system do not have the relief valves and if it reaches maximum pressure, it will explode or mangita ginagawaan ang pressure, ang fluid or a pressure coming out from the system. So mo gina siya ang iya nga one of the main reason nga aga butang tasang pressure control relief valves. Kag let's say for example this is mechanical overload protection. So how does this mechanical overload protection? A certain material or a certain mechanical material in a system has its limitations. Bawa ang gear, if you are familiar with some gears, may hara siya nga maximum RPM niya kaya niya lang itiyog. So let's say for example, aring gear it can only rotate around 2,400 RPM, revolution per minute, 2,400 lang. And then the hydraulic pump have exceeded the pressure to turn that 2,400 RPM. Bali, ang nag-output ang gear natin sa 3,000. So what will happen? Mabuka ang mga gear. Maguba ang mga gear. Maguba ang shaft or ang gear nga gagamit sa ito na fluid. And then after that, the system will fail. Will fail to work, will fail to operate, or whatever kung ano ang functions ng system na imo ginagamitan. So, amo na siya some mga functions ng pressure control relief valves. And then, so pressure sa small aircraft is 10,500 psi. Just to give you an insight, so kung ano kakusog ang 1,500 psi is ang motor, ang guma sa motor or sa lakyan, it only accounts around 35 to 40 psi lang na siya. Muna na siya kadako. So, di ba, galupok, hindi akong matamaan sa pressure. So, amo na siya. That's how dangerous it is. And then, ang large aircraft, around 3,000 psi. So, how does a 3,000 psi look? Bantay ka mo ng hose nga pwede parang movable siya, pwede siya kaya lang flexible hose. Pwede mahampang-hampang mo or move siya be. Once it reach 3,000 psi, you can hang on the hose without even budging. Hindi mo na mag-iho ang ang hose kung harap na so 3,000 psi. Actually, init na kayo siya. Kaya amo na nga mga hose natin sa aeroplano is insulated to protect them and the people around it as well. So, muna siya ang kusog ang kadelikado mag-ubra sa aeroplano around hydraulics as well. Labi na mag hydraulic test, mag gear swing or in hydraulic test to power up the system. Kusog na kaya makita mabatian mo nga daw robot nga pressure nga gasipa na siya. And one time I saw this nakita ko nga hose sa around sa may wheel well area. Bali, yarang ginataguan sa guma ba? Wheel well na siya. Wheel well bay. And then, nakita ko siya, ang kadakuon sang iya 3,000 psi nga hose is, ang diameter niya daw 5 pesos lang. 5 pesos ang daan ng 5 pesos lang. Mura na siya kadako, kaya niya i-withstand 3,000 psi. Wow, grabe. So imagine, mahal-mahal ng mga hose. Amo na siya ang mga braided steel braided hose. Okay, kaya nila mag-cater sa mga nakatapok na pressure. And then, thermal and pressure maintenance.
All act as safety devices to relieve excess pressure in the system back to reservoir in the case of a flap relief valve. This valve is fitted to prevent excessive air loads damaging the flaps or flap attachments by allowing the flaps to blow back to the position if the air loads are excessive. For example, flaps selected at too high an airspeed. Thermal relief valves are usually fitted into lines isolated by NRVs or selectors and are adjusted to blow off at a pressure slightly higher than normal system pressure, typically 10%. In some systems, a full flow relief valve or high pressure relief valve is fitted downstream of the pump to bypass full pump output to the reservoir in the event of failure of the cutout valve or blockage elsewhere in the system.
So, he explained regarding the relief valve fitted in a tight control. So, since 'di ba ang aton lang ginigol sa aton nga hydraulic system is to para kaya naton i-move ang loads ng eroplano, then if paano ba kung ma-overpower sang kwan sang outside load ba sang natural load ang halin sa hangin nga sagwa ang aton nga flight control. So what happened? If wala na yung relief valve, what will happen? Bukon niya na gisiyon niya na ang flight control. Amo na kakusog ang outside load sa mga natural loads nga acting sa aton nga flight control. So, a relief valve is fitted in a way nga kung ma-overpower sa outside load ang aton nga flight control, it will revert back. Bali, ma-move lang siya. Ma-move siya backwards. And then, bali, mahampang-hampang siya, bala. Hindi siya mag-isog siya nga mabawi lang din siya permi sa natural load. So, this avoid our flight controls and flaps to be damaged in the operation. So, muna siya ang diya nga functions ng relief valve. And then, sa thermal relief valves are usually fitted into the lines of selected by NRPs or non-return valves. Same principle sa sa pressure kickbacks ang 10% mag-a-adjust sila kung ma-overpower nila ang system pressure. So usually ang aton na-discuss ko sa inyo ang fail safe, ang aton system gali is operating always almost 2 times ang na-design ng aton system to operate almost 2 times its capacity. For example, ang aton system is operating around 3,000 PSI. The system is designed and is rated to operate around 4,500 to 5,000 PSI without damaging the system. So amo na siya ang ginatawag na fail-safe system naton sa eroplano. And amo na nga ang mga gamit naton sa eroplano from pipes to fluid lines is they are very reliable when it comes to system protection. Kay rated na sila almost 2 times its operating pressure. So now let's continue with pressure maintaining and the brake control valve na lang we are running out of
Pressure
time.
maintaining valves. A pressure maintaining valve, or priority valve, is basically a relief valve which maintains the pressure in a primary service at a value suitable for operation of that service, regardless of secondary service requirements. Pressure reducing valves. A pressure reducing valve is often used to reduce main system pressure to a value suitable for operation of a service such as the wheel brakes. Brake control valves. A brake control valve is essentially a variable pressure reducing valve, which controls pressure in the brake system according to the position of the pilot's brake pedals, the anti-skid system and auto brake selections as required.
So discuss niya is the pressure maintaining valve. So where it is fitted in the system. Ang pressure maintaining valves is fitted in the middle from the pump. Then it goes to the pressure maintaining valves and then through the output side. So naaga butang kanisang pressure maintaining valves. It is actually a feature to ensure that the output is always delivered at as required. Kay kung wala na siyang pressure maintaining valve, nakabus ang pressure, wala na nagbutang pressure maintaining valves within the system. So imbes nga itulod niya ang landing gear at a full extend, natulod niya lang ang landing gear around 70%. So there is an angle, hindi naton malakap ang aton nga landing gear. That is why we put pressure maintaining valves in the system to ensure nga ang aton nga system is fully capable of delivering the required pressure. So pressure reducing valves. Pressure reducing valves are often used to reduce the main system pressure. This is a valve also ang iya trabaho is manually activated to release pressure in case may obra sa aton nga system. By the way, I've been changing tires with aircraft for around 2 years, and then it is usually associated with a circuit breaker. So that means there is a system, hydraulic system operate. It is electrically operated and is associated with a circuit breaker para hindi siya in event nga malfunction siya, hindi siya magsipa sa brake. Giving safety sa kung sino man ang obra sa brake. Kamo na nga kung mag-ilis kamo brake system or mag-ilis guma sa aeroplano, they remove couple of circuit breakers on board. Kamo na siya ang connected na sila sa pressure reducing valves which are activated once you kung kakson mo na ang mga CBs, circuit breaker sa babaw, ma-activate ang pressure reducing valves, reducing the system pressure and for the safety of whoever ang gaobra sa eroplano or gailis sa hydraulic system. And that will conclude our session for today. And stop share ko na. And other questions? May questions ta? Klaro lang ang akon delivery. Medyo wala problema sa inyo audio on your side. Wala sure number. Okay. So, so almost half with sa inyo ang wala wala signal subong. May lang gid medyo magtapos na ta kay diri sa among subong ba matamat na buhos ang ulan. And regarding sa aton nga subject, actual di ba natag ko sa inyo news no nga sa December 16 mag-amo sini. Hasta December 16 gali ang aton nga session. So I presume 5 units na siya sa inyo. Kinanglan ko pa confirmation with the head of training if tuod gid man or sakto gid man ang akong pagka-intindi sila. So questions. 2 minutes remaining. Wala. So I presume na kamo na advanced reading na kamo regarding this one. Bali may na quiz na ko nga na-prepare for you but it will be available on Thursday. And hopefully ma-advanced reading na kamo to end up our hydraulic system kay although actuators na siya and then output relief valve. So halos na discuss ko na ang parts ng bilog ng hydraulic system and we will discuss a recap of all of it on Wednesday. Vacant na to ng Friday, no? Ano yung schedule sa mga bago nga nagbuha? Vacant ng Friday, hindi? Hello? One and 40 minutes. For submission kag lab. So that will be assigned for the checking as well. And medyo galain-lain ang schedule mo every week. Bina-check ko. Kaya galibugulo kung paano ko nila tapos higaan pa ko nila duwa kadlaw nga face to face, which is medyo na budlayan ko magsabat sa mga estudyante. Kaya ga-asking wala face to face. But anyway, sige, I hope you understand from my side.